Hi everyone, my name is Phil Haslam. I'm an independent consultant, and for the past 6 months, I've been absolutely obsessed with workplace and workplace closing next year. And I'm really lucky today to be able to talk to Leandro from Humand, who will tell you in his own words, but he came from Meta. So he's got a double-edged sword of expertise and information to share today. And we're going to be discussing how customers using Workplace currently can migrate across seamlessly in that transition and what to expect. And whilst this is a Humand hosted webinar, it really applies to anyone migrating from Workplace and what you might have to consider. So Leandro, I'll quickly pivot over to you. If you could tell us who you are, where you come from, and also why you're not wearing a festive Christmas jumper.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Phil. Potentially the main reason why I'm not wearing a Christmas jumper is because you would have not a joke to make about me at this point. So I am giving you the chance and the floor to shine. So yes, a good one. I'm feeling bad now that I don't have one. Well, actually, I would have one. I just actually changed it because I thought it would be too flamboyant at this point. Okay. But hey, I think I missed it.
Too festive.
All right. Well, I guess also it's a little too much for a Latino like me from Brazil, all the way from London, to actually do that, because we don't have this habit of, on Christmas to wear jumpers, because out there where I am going next week, as we were chatting briefly before we started, it'll be 40 degrees next week. Not that relevant, but I came to Humand about 3 months ago. So very recently, I joined the company. Super excited to be leading the entire EMEA expansion. As you know, Humand is a company which started in the US and covered pretty much the Americas in first place. And we are now, as part of this international expansion, arriving in EMEA and APAC at the same time, with incredible colleagues of mine, to continue the mission of what Workplace has been for so many companies. One of the things that, especially for me, when I was working for Workplace, it is how much we noticed that platform gave visibility, gave experience, gave professional careers to so many people out there. And for being a platform of opportunities, as I like to call it, to so many, it's part of the mission that we want to continue. We want to continue this perspective of offering customers a chance to continue with the, everything that they have built upon, and go to the next level, because we also think that there could be more things that we could do at this point. And I am excited to be joining a company where we can see this as an opportunity as well to continue on things that we as people have believed before. And I personally believed myself as well.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So what I want to do is I've got a bunch of questions which I'd like to ask you, and I'd like to be able to explore those. If anyone who has joined has any questions, please do type them in the comments. Any compliments about Christmas jumpers, like David, are welcome. But anything migration relevant as well, please do chuck the comments in there. So, Leandro, I'd like to kick off with a really broad but very obvious question. What is possible to migrate from Workplace to Humand? And I say that because I think we're all aware that if you are a Workplace customer, you are being reminded that the easiest way to migrate your data is to go to the preferred Workplace replacement platform that is very well publicized. And they've got a button and it kind of handles everything for you. So what can Humand do in that scenario?
That's a very good question, and a great one to start. So when we're migrating right now, one thing that everybody needs to be aware of is that Meta has released their APIs and pretty much the open communication between any other vendor and the platform. So it is true that for one vendor in the market, which became, as they said, their preferred vendor, there is an easy access at one point, but it doesn't prevent any other from trying to do exactly the same thing. What is important at this point is to understand which companies have a solid technical background to make this migration as seamless and easy as possible. And this is where, especially in our case, we have defined a script that runs within Workplace after, of course, they had to open their APIs so we can make the migration of the data for you. As of today, the whole setup of groups and the content inside the groups, the posts, the user list, the knowledge library are things that all of us are in one way or another migrating at this point. We do have challenges, and I'm not going to lie, even other vendors out there would have challenges with chats. When they are trying to migrate that, there's a different level of privacy associated with chats. So even though Human is migrating chats, we still see other vendors out there facing bigger challenges to make that as an option as well. So things that you need to take into account is that the whole structure of just in summary groups and posts, even the user list that you currently have with active, deactivated users, or even deleted users, up to you what you want to migrate, and knowledge library are things that we do at once. And the length of time associated with this migration, it is part of the consultation that at Human we provide. So we understand not only but for how long that data needs to be migrated as part of the whole assessment at this point.
Okay. And so I think you touched on it. The next question is about the ease of migration, the ease of transition. You've said that Workplace and Meta have opened up that API and handed it out because obviously they want people to leave their platform because they're shutting it down. So they don't want any data left, and any data left after, I think, May 2026 is just going to be deleted. So how easy is it to just extract information from different places on Workplace? You said chats is a bit of an issue, but it's an issue for everyone. Groups, newsfeed, knowledge, libraries, is that all quite straightforward?
It is a straightforward process. And one of the things that we need to be aware of, it is not only the quality of the data or the amount of data I want to migrate, because that is going to be the first point of migrating, checking, and after you give the quality control, approval, that's when we continue the migration. So there's a quality check associated with every single step of this process. So when we migrate groups, we have to do a quality check. When we migrate posts, we do another quality check. And that's how we ensure that what we are doing on our side is in agreement with the expectations of the client at that point. So when you're asking about how easy in one way that is going to be, it's fairly straightforward. The beginning of the process is, if you choose Human, you are going to generate a token, and that token is going to allow us to have access to your information to make the migration. So it is going to be fairly straightforward with the token. We have a couple of settings that we're going to do within your Workplace instance together with your support. But after that setting is done, and we have the token available, that's when we can start migrating data automatically using our script that we have already natively designed within Human to bring the information into our platform straightforward. It is important to mention that every time that, as you mentioned at the beginning of this call, like this is applicable not only to those migrating to Human or looking to migrate into Human, but also those who are still not out there with a decision made and they want to understand what's the back end of this process. And I'm happy to share some of that as well. So whenever you have the same infrastructure of the software, that's when it is easier and faster to migrate. So as another vendor, the closest you are to what Workplace used to be regarding technical infrastructure, software infrastructure, that's how fast, of course, that migration is going to be, because that requires zero tweak basically on the way you're going to put the data on one side to another. What you are going to see in the market as well is that many vendors do not actually have the same infrastructure. So when they don't, their migration takes longer because obviously, as I said, they need to adjust into the new infrastructure, everything that they had into within Workplace and then moving that to another one. In Human, that does not happen because our internal communication modules, they are designed pretty much with the same straightforward infrastructure as it was at Workplace. So our migration is much more direct in the sense because the same structure that you had for groups, for instance, such as closed, open, secret, the module of posts, all of that is already replicated within Human as natively how we designed it. So we don't have hiccups. There's no bumpy roads for us because our infrastructure is direct and very straightforward.
And in terms of naming conventions, what you see on other platforms is that groups might be called hubs and newsfeed might be called posts or stories or something like that. Have Human identically replicated the naming conventions to make it even more straightforward?
we have feed being feed, we have groups being groups. So it is very straightforward because again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? And especially into the internal comm space. So that's where we found the solid foundation, which was in the market. They are very straightforward. And even when I'm teaching marketing in university, one of the things that I say to everyone is that if your product requires explanation, the naming of your product is not good enough. Yeah. And that's pretty much how we define things on our side as well. So if you need to explain what groups is, then it's not clear. Like you're creating already, some sort of friction with the next end user, which you should not at this point. You're trying to make this migration as seamless as possible, but then you are creating something right now that people would have to, interpret to actually understand what it means. That's just, in my opinion, a bit silly. So in our case, we're very, those are not trademarks. Those are not like, if you want a group, then just name it group. Why would you name it something else? That's kind of how we feel on our side. So again, feed is going to be feed, groups are going to be groups, knowledge library is the only thing that we kind of cut the name. So it's going to be library and not knowledge library. But that's it regarding like the main modules for internal comms. And chat is chats.
Great. Nice and straightforward. So if I've got a medium-sized customer, let's say 1,000 to 2,000 people, how long? And we've maybe been with Workplace for about 5 years. What is the process? How exhaustive is that process for a customer of that size? Let's say we're giving you a go live date, or you talk to us and you say we think this should take X number of months or weeks. How long do you think that should take for Human to achieve?
That's there's one thing that Human is doing differently than every single solution in the market. And I am very happy to share that it is fundamentally different the way we do it regarding migration and integration. We're going to set up a team that will work together with you. You are going to have an onboarding lead, a project manager, a technical agent, plus an integration engineer who will be part of your migration. We don't want you to be left alone in this process because we understand first, you potentially were not prepared for it. If you were not considering living in a workplace, you did not allocate resources. There was not, you didn't have everything in place to make this as smooth as possible. So we on our side as a company, we're focusing on making this as easy as possible. So we are allocating resources on our side. While most of my competitors in the market today have hired an army of business development and salespeople to actually just embrace the market, we hired customer success. We hired technical agents. We hired engineers to make this process until the moment of complete migration as easy as possible. So that's why we feel like there's a huge advantage of using Human at this point, because again, it's a much lighter lift on you as a customer than it is compared to other solutions. So when we're making this migration, the first thing that we are going to do in this consultation process, which is what we call the kickoff session, we rely on understanding how much data you need. We understand that you have out there 5 years of data, but do you actually need 5 years of data? That's how we are trying to assess at this point the real need of it. We were actually, before discussing, if you are in hospitality and you were talking about the new branch that it just opened 5 years ago, is that post actually relevant? What is the value of bringing that over? So we are the kind of company out there who is going to be challenging you much more on what you actually need than those who actually just want to migrate 0 or 1, like 0 or 100% based on that. So that's part of our consultation process. Of course, you were going to challenge me, give me a number, give me a ballpark. So yes, if you were talking about 5 years of data for a company of about 1,000 people, I would say that you would need about at least 1 to 2 weeks to really go over this consultation process, and then we know what we're going to do. And then after that, you're going to spend in between 3 to 5 weeks to actually complete the migration. There are ways for us to make this faster. And if you ask me how Human is doing that on a case-by-case basis, it is the fact that we have customers, for instance, who decided to migrate just 1 year of data, move into Human, continue from Human, and then later they are choosing what to migrate from the past. If that becomes relevant, what becomes relevant, yes or no. So if that is the case, it is going to be much faster. The other thing that really is time consuming and people just do not know, because if you haven't done this before, you wouldn't know, but reactions from old posts is something that is actually very time consuming. So if you want, when we're talking about reactions, it's not just the comments, but it's also the likes and the emojis that we created all over that. So if you feel like you want the data to be migrated, but the reactions are not necessarily critical, we would be able to make it much faster simply because we are migrating just the posts and not the reactions. So if you want historical data, great, but that is something that potentially the vendors out there are not going to be disclosing. I am more than happy to be dramatically transparent in here and doing that as one of the potential blockers, because there's a lot of manual work required when we're moving reactions to posts as well. So those are the sort of things that we discuss together with the customer from the very beginning, so we can really understand how to either choose for a migration in stages or to make a full migration, but without reactions, for instance, so on and so forth. So that's how we play and ended up creating something that is really meaningful and that will really solve for their problem from day one.
And so thank you for kind of giving that timeline. That's really helpful. On knowledge libraries, we've had a question in the comments. Can the categories and subcategories of the knowledge library, is that a lift and shift? So if you just say, I want the entire knowledge library in its current structure moved across to libraries as is that a seamless transition? Do you get like for like?
That is the best question you can ask me, because the reality is, for us to migrate your full knowledge library is easier than changing that across the migration process, which means we can literally just move at once and have a like for like, and that is a much lighter lift compared to curating what content you want to migrate. Curating your knowledge library at this point, it is what is more time consuming than not. We have customers out here where we were literally cleaning up their knowledge library before making the migration. So we were already deleting from Workplace before migrating the whole content. So we could keep exactly the same category, subcategory, and then lifting that at once whenever we had it cleaned up already from Workplace. So this is what people should be aware as well. If you are considering migrating knowledge library, it's easier to start cleaning it up right now before you choose another solution, because by the time we get there, it is so much easier if we migrate everything as it is instead of curating content as we move.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point, that don't wait until you are considering moving to a platform and you've got a kickoff date in mind. You should be collaborating internally now and talking to your internal teams and stakeholders and content creators and saying, look, we need to allocate this task to you lot to go through the knowledge library, work out what's in there. We've got posts in here about what to do during pandemic times, but that's not relevant anymore. So actually, is that something we need to take across? Or we've got stuff in here about the cycle to work scheme that we don't offer anymore, or we do offer it now, but we haven't referenced it. So it probably sounds like a lift and shift of taking everything across and then maybe curating it within your new platform is the way to do it, because then you know where everything is. And I guess I'd be able to, I'm doing something else for another client at the moment, which is to do with help desk tools, and to get the knowledge out of one platform into another platform is a really horrible process where it's like a CSV export and then you have to recreate that or import it, but it doesn't do it in rich text format. It's really basic, like plain text. And so actually having the ability to lift your entire structure and move it over sounds absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Do Human have any kind of written recommendations, like a 10 commandments of what data to migrate and how far back? We were talking earlier and you mentioned about GDPR and kind of the legal aspect of it. So you're obviously going to have consultation with your internal teams, especially your legal team, about what you should be migrating. Some customers I've heard of are saying, we're just not going to take chat at all because that's easier in terms of any future litigation or anything. It's just easier to say we don't have it rather than, this was 8 years ago. So what do Human recommend?
Okay, we have privacy issues especially with personal information. So for instance, if you want to feel like, okay, we're going to migrate the whole profile in Workplace, does that come with the photo of the user? The answer is no, because that's a personal information, which is considered biometric. So we can't just migrate their photo. So you're not going to have the profile photo into the migration process. Just to give you some, as I said, there are legal requirements out there with things that we can do and things that we cannot do, or things that we simply should not do. And when we go into the how far behind based on data, that is exactly the point of discussing what are, even in contract, when you put sub-processors to be part of your technical ecosystem. So you need to have we have to have discussion with your IT, we have to have this discussion with your legal team, and then try to understand what are the legal barriers that we would potentially face within your company, within your guidelines, and then replicate that within the decision of how far back we're going to migrate. Again, if we come to a point where, because of GDPR, we are a sub-processor, meaning that we were going to be required 3 years of data to be in the platform at least, we have customers who are requiring up to 5 years for their personal reasons or their legal reasons, then we are going to just comply with that. So we're going to migrate 5 years of data, 3 years of data, however you feel that that's important. The one thing that we need to consider is that your solution potentially needs to be flexible as well. And flexibility at this point will be, if I need to migrate if I want to migrate quickly for A, B, C, or D reasons, we have for instance, customers right now who are migrating very quickly because they have milestones in their company. So they already want to use the new platform to actually, get this quick engagement upon the beginning. So this is the sort of thing that we work backwards from this day and then define, okay, for us to do that, it is going to be easier to migrate just 1 year of data for now. And then at a second stage, we're going to migrate the remaining 2 years of data for, just to make sure that we can meet with this timeline that you have. We have customers with 5,000 users who are migrating into Human within 3 weeks, 5 weeks. And it's really necessary just for us to understand how much we're migrating, how quickly we're making integrations, and therefore how quickly we can launch the new instance for all of these customers.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like there will be customers out there that want to take everything that they have. They want to take all their suitcases on holiday. And there's going to be other customers that know that you can just pack light because, it's not that type of holiday.
Yeah, we have, I'll be sharing a lot of best practices with you with this call and sharing like real life situations, right? We had one customer who considered not migrating anything. They're like, nope, new platform, we want everything empty. But because they thought that we would charge for a migration that they were not willing to spend their budget. And then when we were discussing, okay, we covered that for you, we're going to be discussing about this concept later, but when we were managing like how we managed the migration itself, they were like, okay, so maybe we want to migrate this, and that. So then in the end, what they did is that they migrated the whole group infrastructure. They migrated just 1 year of content within groups, and they migrated knowledge library and it started creating profiles from scratch for new users. And that's how they're moving forward. So having this flexibility, as I said, it is how you really push for something that is meaningful to you as as an end user, and not just trying to feel like I'm obliged at this point to take something out of someone's shelf. And that's really not the way we operate. Some vendors out there are only giving you that structured option, but that's not the way Human does it.
And so, let's state the obvious. Anything you don't take with you as of May 2026 just gets deleted. It's not archived for you. It's not presented back to you in a nice little package. Do Human have any archiving tool or any recommendations for what to do with the data that you don't take over? Or is it a case of if you don't want it, it's gone, so there's nothing you can do with it anyway?
When you close your instance with Workplace, you literally have the option to download everything in a downloadable form per se. So you can have access to that information somehow. The question that we do during the consultation period, as I mentioned, it is, why do you think that you still need that? Right? That's the challenge we're going to be making to everyone. Because as you know, and you even challenging me on this, like, why not having this repository somewhere? And I don't call it a repository. For me, it is a graveyard. right? The way I would explain that, it is like, okay, if you have data available somewhere, but not everyone is going to have access to it, I'm not going to be on a daily or weekly basis going back to that. That's just a graveyard. That's something that I go once a year. For what purpose, right? And this is what I feel some people are trying to see value in that. But I personally would challenge, like, why do we still need that? We let go some things. Like if you need that in your workplace from the workplace instance into Human or any other platform, just migrate it. But if you don't, what is the point of keeping the graveyard? That's how I'm gonna challenge my customers in here with that as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds logical. For another question in the comments, so for the migrated content, does it show up as the profile of the person who originally posted it in Workplace in the new system, or would it show up as the profile of an API bot? So it's the mapping of A to B and working out that A equals B. So I've got to post it under the profile of that person.
Excellent question. So throughout the migration process, we're going to create users in Human. And then what our team is going to do for you, it is really to connect the Workplace user ID with your Human user ID. If you were keeping both profiles, they just match automatically. And therefore, anything you update in your profile is going to update as part of the originator of that content. So in one way or another, you keep it exactly as it is moving forward. If you choose not to create this link for all of the users and you want to, let's say, for instance, if you want to start creating new profiles and not creating anything just to replicate what came from the other platform and the new one, we can create generic usernames and saying Workplace former user or anything in this sense. And then you would not see the originator as it was in Workplace. And you're going to see just as the question was, like this API bot kind of interface. So it really depends on how we're going to do it. It's important to remind everyone out there that the customers who want to migrate all of the users as they are, they run the challenge of buying more licenses than they need, right? Because that data is going to be stored out there. And until we actually revamp everything that is activated or deactivated, it may take a while. So we're going to have to use some manual work to clean up that data after you migrate. So doing the user migration straight away is an option, but let's just make sure that we remove everything that we don't need, so you don't use licenses that you don't need as well at the moment of migrating that data.
Okay. I imagine you can't answer this question with the type of numbers that I'd expect to hear, but it sounds like you guys have done quite a few workplace migrations so far in 2024. What sort of numbers are we talking about, or how much expertise do Human have in this area?
Okay, great. So Human has customers with, I would say, 20 users. And our biggest customer today in the planet is using 140,000 employees at a time. And this customer with 140,000 employees at a time has now a weekly active usage above 85%. When we launched one of the features of service management, where we do internal tickets, they process more than 20 tickets just in 2 weeks, considering the complexity and the size of their company as well. So Human is a tool that is designed for small businesses all the way to the large enterprises with no concerns whatsoever.
These were workplace customers before, so
that's 140,000. No, they started with us. But going back now to your point of the workplace migrations specifically, we have companies with 45, I guess, is the smallest one that I have migrated until now, 45 users. And we have companies above the 20,000s, as it's one special bucket for us as well. So it's really, again, once more, not a company that, like, we're not focused on one size or another size at this point. I am not going to be able to disclose the total number of migrations we have already done. But since October, I can let you know that we have surpassed more than 10 migrations a week. So that gives you a ballpark across 29 countries at this point. So we've been migrating, as I said, above 10 migrations a week since October in 29 countries at this point.
And as part of that, from those migrations you've done, it seems like the volume is ramping up now. what are the best lessons that you've learned from those migrations? Of course, every single customer is different.
Mm-hmm.
But for you guys, it must feel like similar rinse and repeat work of, we know what we're doing here. We've built up the muscle set in order to kind of cope with this. What are the lessons that you've learned from these migrations?
The most successful migrations at this point are the ones that are really willing to do two things, in my opinion. First, take the time to understand what they need in the next platform. We understand that there is this, inertia that we're looking forward to of like, can it be as seamless as possible? Can the least disruptive, migration as possible? And our concern needs to be that, yes, that's our goal for the end user. I don't want to sacrifice that for my end user. I can't sacrifice my engagement with 75 plus percent of my employees for them. But it requires some work for us to create as an instance now with a new platform that is the least noisy as possible. We don't want to have hiccups on the way they're going to use the platform, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they start as clean as possible as well. So the companies that are succeeding the most, not only in time to do the migration, but also in the effectiveness of this migration, it is those who are taking the time to do the proper consultation with us and migrate only what is necessary.
Okay.
The second point that we're seeing success at this point is that there's an open mind approach when looking at our platform with this perspective of long-term growth. One thing that we did, for instance, is that we have in our platform Marketplace as one module. So you can really start cross-selling secondhand items among your employees. And this is one way to actually create a lot of engagement in the beginning, because people really see a personal benefit for them outside of the work boundaries, even though it is still a professional environment. So as we do that, it is much faster for us to have higher engagement from the very beginning. So companies that are taking into account our consultation period as well to understand which areas they were very successful in engagement and which other features we can enable so they are ready for more and more are those that are also taking greatest benefit of our platform as well. So I would say, in summary, those two things: taking the time to clean up as much as you can and make it as effective as possible for the end user to find all of the information needed without overpopulating your new instance. That's point number one. But point number two, it is really taking the time as well with our team to understand what new features we can launch in the short or mid-term so we can maximize your engagement with the new platform from the very beginning. Because we have more to offer than just internal comms. And that's the benefit as well of migrating to Human.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because your platform and others are kind of talking about themselves as Workplace 2.0. So Meta gave a lot of great features in Workplace, but ultimately at a point stopped developing new features, and so kind of slowed down. And if they were still competing in the market, you could argue a little bit left behind, because platforms have leveled up and got all of these great new features, all of these great new workflows, which are going to help the employee with their kind of user experience as they go through their employment at their company. You mentioned earlier, I think, was it 4 roles that you will apply during the migration process? So 4 resources from Humand in terms of, was it project manager? What were the roles?
Yeah. So when we put our team together, we're going to have a project manager who is going to work pretty much on the milestones and timeline of your successful launch. After that, we're going to have a support agent who will be letting you in a day-to-day contact on everything that was migrated. It's time for you to check. Let's run the revision of this, and then we are ready to go to the next step. We also allocate one integrations engineer, who is the person in charge of making sure that if you want your HR system to generate the access with Human, or if you want your payslips system to actually, in finance system, to be connected to Human for the other features, all of that is going to be available throughout your experience with Human, so you can maximize the number of features that you have and modules already turned on that require special integration. And third, you're going to have a customer success manager. That person is, once again, focused on giving you the ability to deliver the best ROI you can with the platform that you currently use. One thing that many of you do not know, and I'm super happy to disclose this in this call with you, it is that while most of our platforms in the market are going to be focused on monthly active users, MAU, that was one of the main metrics that Workplace used as well, and most of us are still using MAU as the reference. For us at Human, we want to achieve with customers what we call the super engaged level. So our challenge, it is the customer success team will be working together with you to get a minimum of 70% of weekly usage, not monthly. So we want to make sure that every single week you have at least 70% of your employees active in the platform. And that is one of the challenges that we put for ourselves as a platform. But at the same time, we share this objective with the customers who want to achieve the super engagement level within their platform as well to maximize returns. And that's what the customer success and customer experience team will help you navigate so we can achieve that via strategies to implement or even execute better each one of the modules that you already have, or even, if it is the case, to create a launching plan of new modules down the line that would maximize that experience as well.
So you've got a project manager, a support agent, an integrations engineer, and a customer success manager, a CSM. So you've assigned 4 resources to this migration. Now I dread the question, how much are you charging for this? Because that's 4 resources, and that's great because maybe I'm the only internal comms person in my company and I've been tasked with doing this. So now I've got an army of people on the other side who are going to help me. But now deliver the bad news of how much this is going to cost me.
That is the good news, not the bad news, because as I said, instead of being one of the crazy companies out there who are spending 70,000 in events in Europe, we hired the good people to make this migration as seamless as possible. So instead of spending too much in events, hence why many of you potentially did not see us into spending $100,000 in events across EMEA, we were actually doing the background work to make these resources available to you. So we are making migrations and integrations 100% covered with your license. So we have a very affordable price for the licenses as well, but we are also not charging extra for either integration or migrations for any of our customers today.
Wow.
We know this is not a thing that we can do forever, but for now, we are more than happy to cover 100% of the migration and integrations with our special team for all of the workplace customers that choose Human for the next chapter of their life.
So that's great. And trust me, I've reviewed upwards of 20, 25 platforms, and I've looked at commercials. And I know that a lot of them are charging for migration efforts, so they need to cover their resource cost. And they are also charging for integration. So if you want to integrate to your HR tool or your learning and development platform, they'll charge you to create the API connectors for that. So that's amazing. In terms of kind of the journey and the process, how have you seen it work out? What sort of feedback have you had from customers who've migrated about their experience with Human during the migration with all of those resources aligned to them? Are they all coming back with similar feedback?
First, we are very surprised with the feedback of our customers. They found in Human a way to continue their job. And that is something that for a lot of them was a question mark. Can we continue with that? Is there a future out of it? We had customers who were eventually, just looking at, there's these traditional solutions in the market. IT is pushing me to choose this vendor because of X, Y, or Z, especially in the IT space. And then they're like, but we don't want to do that. So is there any opportunity out there? And they found in Human this chance to move ahead with something that they felt connected. We were talking about this before in some of our coffees, but Human in its name is about the people, right? We are talking about the humans who are going to be using this. We're going to be taking advantage of this process, who are going to make sure that everything that we do is focused on them and their needs, not on our needs just as a company. And because of that, our customers are actually seeing very positively all of the impact that we can generate and the resources, and especially the commitment that we have to continue this mission that was once so exciting for us at Workplace. Workplace was my first product working within Meta. I eventually moved to WhatsApp, had a completely, different experience when working for WhatsApp. So I do have many experiences in my life. I was working at Amazon before coming here. So looking at the big techs and really trying to see like what I knew there was something special about the workplace time. And when I found Human, that was the reason why I left Amazon and all of my career out there to come over here, because it was the time to once more connect with people and connect with people and make this process in the future as easy as possible for something that they actually have to solve for. There's an imminent need to solve for this. And we are happy that we could allocate the resources, create a slightly different strategy at this point that is actually addressing the needs of our customers in a faster and more responsive way than our competitors. And this is our advantage. You can be, asking about the unique selling point for us, the unique value proposition of Human. And I would personally say that it is our people and our commitment to see you not as customer, but as people who need help, who are trying to do something on your side that we can support with using technology. And that's what we're going to do together.
Okay, brilliant. We spoke earlier about incentives and kind of special offers, end of the year stuff. Obviously, if you would like to move to Human before Christmas, there's not a lot of time for that and people are going to be on holiday. But one thing that I've been talking to platforms and customers about is we've made a decision to move to your platform. We've taken a bit of risk on here because if Workplace wasn't closing down, we may never have moved off Workplace. So we're taking a bit of risk on to come to an unknown, not that Human are unknown, but I would challenge any existing Workplace customer to have named any other employee engagement platform in 2023. Okay. Yeah. So the risk that you take on, are you allowing customers a kind of get out of jail free card if they feel like they've made the wrong decision?
Very good question as well. We're very certain about what we can do. And it is in our DNA that our customers are taken as partners, are not as customers. So that's another point. We don't even, talk about customer, success. We talk about customer experience. We want not them to, just to succeed, but we want them to experience together everything that we do. So the level of commitment we have on our side, it is not to make any customer a hostage of Human. We want you to be a partner of Human. And I want this to be very, like, one of the things that you potentially want to, to keep in your mind after this conversation is done. It is, we want you to participate with us in this process. So we don't want you to feel like you made a decision over Human and now you're stuck with us. No, you're going to choose to be with us because that's going to be, once again, a choice and not that you're a hostage. Every customer that is willing to come to Human, we are giving them already a proof of concept of at least 3 months for free. So they can come, try for 3 months. And then if everything goes well, they are, as we expect to, and we don't see any reason why not to, then they just continue with Human. And that's even going to give you time to have a comfortable decision. Let's say it's already December. As Phil just mentioned, you want to start this conversation before Christmas. You can book a call with us this week, next week. We have an entire team ready to take this call across the globe. We have representatives from Australia and Brisbane all the way to the Americas and, of course, Mexico. I guess it's the last time zone that we have. So it is easy for you to find a slot to talk to us. And you are going to have 3 months for free to run a proof of concept if you want to, if you wish to. The one thing I am going to say today to you, Phil, is that anyone watching this webinar can have access to our platform and book a demo with us today. And you can just have to say, I want my 6-month POC because I watched the Hugh Talks. And if you put that into your request, then we're going to be able to grant you 6 months for the first half of up to 6 months. So it means from January all the way through June. you would be able to experience Human, Migrate Human, and have it for free, and then start paying just from July next year as part of our support to my Christmas. I'm not wearing a jumper, but I'm trying to be Santa Claus in here and giving something before Christmas. So that is going to be my offer to you guys as well after this call.
Brazilian Santa is real.
See, we're so good.
That's amazing. Yeah, look, I think the incentives that you've spoken about are great. Yeah, no penalty to leave if you decide that if in the first 3 to 6 months that it's not for you, you should be able to change your mind, because as you've said, the problem with Workplace is that it was built on this cultural social experience that we all had on Facebook. And so it just makes sense for people. And then moving away from it, I don't have the numbers, but I think it was something like 7 million global customers on Workplace. You probably know it was a lot more than that, but that's the number I've been touting around. So that's 7 million all have to go somewhere. And if they feel like they've made a bad choice, you shouldn't be held hostage, as you said, in that situation. And you should be able to pivot and kind of move to another place. Obviously, that's not going to be a great experience for your users, for your customers, but yeah, we'll see. Look, Leandro, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that information for us. And I'm looking forward to getting this published and getting this out there, because I think people would love to listen to the insights that you've shared. So thank you for your time. And thank you for having your Christmas jumper on standby.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. I guess if you don't mind, I would just like to share Human very quick screen so people can see the platform. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're not going to have a chance at this point to run a full demo with you, but just for people to have a visualization of what Human as an interface looks like. This is a like for like approach, which means if you want to launch Human as a direct migration to Workplace, you are going to have the feed. You have all of the features for rich text in your posts. You can add videos, photos, GIFs, files, and you can even add polls to your post as well. And you can already make live streams. You can schedule the post. So everything that you have in the experience of Workplace regarding posts and feed are already here. We have just putting it out here, the videos, the pictures, and everything that you want to see how they look into your feed. That's just an example as well. You would have groups with the ability to manage all of the groups. You can explore groups, open, closed, and secret, just like as we mentioned. You would have the experience with chat as well. I could start one chatting here just to show you, so you can see you have pretty much the same interface, very similar even to WhatsApp. Some people tell me, where you can send files, GIFs, emojis, reactions, record, video calls, phone calls. It doesn't change much. People directory and the org chart, it is going to be here as well. So you have all of the information in hand. Marketplace is one of the things that I mentioned to you before, where it creates a lot of engagement, especially where you have very heavy frontline workers. Then people can start selling secondhand items and exchanging them, and you just click one button, and then I can start already having a conversation with the owner of that product. So very simple. Knowledge library, as we can see in here, you can see pretty much all of the content within the knowledge library. That's what we're going to migrate with you. Multiple reactions as well available in the content. So not very different than what you had in Workplace. And then quick links, you can even have a selection of links in here to somehow create this ecosystem where everything works from one single page. It's also nice to see Magazine, which is something different than Workplace had, as another way to share newsletters. So this is a way that you can come create articles where you can have videos, photos, rich text, more complex rich text opportunities out here. And then you can even use push notifications when these newsletter articles become available. Things about Human that are very unique. This is the admin panel that you can see. It is that we have something very exclusive called segmentation. So we're going to help you to use segmentation as a way to make sure that your information is available to all of the relevant employees and not just to all of the employees. Some people should not need to see everything we use segmentation automatically from our platform to do that. And then you would have a series of different modules that you can literally turn on and off. So if you want to start having time off connected to your experience with Human, as you just noticed, I clicked in here and then I come back to my instance, and you're going to see time off already available here. So I can have multiple policies in place, and then I can use that interface to even automate some of my HR processes. This is where Human is going to be slightly different than competitors. And what we say Workplace 2.0, it is because, as you noticed, we started with 100% of the same internal comms features that you had at a workplace, but we can actually expand into what we call the people and culture modules, or the HR automation modules as well. And this is just in 3 minutes to have a quick view of what we can do with Human and how we hope that others can have the chance to see more of that as well, based on what they need on their side. Perfect.
Lovely little plug there. Well done. And it's not me hosting you, it's you hosting me. So thank you very much for the invite. That's great. Really appreciate that. And thank you very much for your time. Thanks for the questions on the comments. And we will kind of gather up any feedback from this, and then we'll probably hope to do another one next year.
That is exactly what we expect. So thank you once again for coming to join me in this conversation. I really appreciate that. And I hope to speak to you in January when we have even more questions from other customers of ours and and people in your network as well. And I'll be more than happy to address whatever questions they might have in early January.
Nice one. Thanks very much. Take care.
Happy Christmas. Thank you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. And I hope to see you soon. Thanks, Bye. Phil.